friends. Welcome to the Pain-Free Birth Podcast. I'm your host, Karen Welton, a certified doula, childbirth educator, and mother of three. In this space, we'll hear positive, supernatural, and yes, even pain-free birth stories from women just like you. We'll explore the deeply spiritual side of childbirth and how God designed women's bodies brilliantly for birth. Let's get started. Welcome back to the podcast, ladies. Today, I am so excited to interview Jill Reitz. She is a mom of 8. Like, holy cow. and the numbers 7 and 8 were twins she had at home after 6 hospital births, all unmedicated. And so this mama knows her stuff. And I am so excited to have her on the podcast today to share with you her so encouraging and uplifting story of delivering twins at home. So welcome, Jill.
Thank you, Karen. I'm so happy to be on.
Yeah, I was just looking at your birth photos and oh my goodness, like the ecstasy and the joy in these. Like, I haven't even shared this story yet on Instagram. It'll probably come out around the same time, but you guys are in for a treat because I can't even convey with words like how exciting this birth looks. And I can't wait to hear all about it. So tell us why did you decide to birth at home with your twins after having 6 hospital births?
So it was a long, hard discerning process. It was not a decision that we just made like, oh, let's just try this out. It was something that my husband and I brought to prayer. I mean, daily, sometimes multiple times a day. We were asking prayer from our friends and our families. And it wasn't something we were sharing like openly to a lot of people just because I just didn't really want to hear others' opinions. Yeah. I really wanted this to be spirit led. I wanted this to be something like, Lord, if this is something you are calling us to, then we're going to trust you and you're going to open the doors. But if it's not, then like shut those doors. So when we found out that we were going to have twins, first of all, like the shock factor was, I was not okay in any way. Like I think initially I had that, like, I just was laughing the whole, like probably the first 18 hours of finding this out. I was just laughing. And then that night I went to bed and I woke up at like 2 a.m. and I just like started bawling my eyes. Like, how am I going to do this? I have really, really, really difficult pregnancies. I have hyperemesis gravidarum. Seriously, from these babies, it was week 5 all the way till, I mean, like an hour before I had the babies, I was throwing up my dinner, or 2 hours before. But so in my mind, I'm like, okay, so this is going to be hard.
That's amazing. I just have to like pause right there to have 8 kids with hyperemesis gravidarum. I mean, that alone is a feat. Like, you are amazing.
The Lord just must, I don't know. I love babies. I love birth. I love being a mom. I know what I'm getting myself into. I don't know though. I don't know. It must be just something that
must have been God's grace.
Blocks out of my mind, like how bad it is, because when I'm in it, I'm like, how did I forget this? This is yeah. I mean, I'm like, oh my gosh. Yes. I mean, like everyone knows it too. Like my kids, everyone. Oh my gosh. It's a cross, but so many other people struggle getting pregnant. I mean, I do realize like the gift of fertility and the gift of pregnancy.
Yeah. So it's beautiful that you overcame all that and still had like all these amazing babies. And obviously like twins isn't something you typically like, you don't typically try out home birth with your twins. No. So how did this happen where you're like, you've had, obviously it seems like positive births.
Yeah.
You felt very empowered.
Yeah.
And now you're here with twins, number 7 and 8. And you're like, let's try for a home birth. Yeah. How did that happen? What did you
I really desired a natural, non-medicated physio, like I wanted that. I knew I could do that. I knew it. But like the world tells you can't. Like everyone says that it's impossible. Everyone says you have to get induced. Everyone says that your babies are at risk. Everyone says that you have to do all the things, all the testing. You got to make sure that everything's perfect. And if your body does this, and you have to do that. And it was so hard to drown out all of that and really tap into like my intuition. So my amazing doulas just talked to me about like, hey, it sounds like you really want this natural vaginal birth.
With twins.
We have to be honest with you that like your best bet to get that is going to be a home birth. And they said it too, based off of like, I mean, shared my birth history, my precipitous labor is that my non-medicated, my big babies, I shared all of that information with them. So they were like, kind of seems like this would be easy for you. And I couldn't shake it. I just couldn't shake it. And I really never thought that I would do a home birth. Again, I had friends that had done home births in the past, but it just was something that I was why do that? I might as well just go to the hospital, get taken care of. It's kind of like a spa day the next 2 days, and it's not a big deal. Like the care is not that different. And oh my gosh, the care is so much different.
So
The care is
different.
so much better
I'm
at
like, a
home.
spa day. What hospital are you going to?
Yes. What was I thinking? I'm thinking, oh, because it's like time away from the kids. No. Oh my gosh. The home is so much better. Oh, it's just like peaceful. And I didn't have to get out of bed. I didn't have people poking me
Nobody's
and checking on
checking
me.
you.
I
Yeah.
just got to like be with everyone who touched my babies and came and visited me was someone that loved us and knew us. And
Yeah.
it was so different. I didn't even know what that's
You
not even
didn't
a
even
thought.
know what you were talking about. Right. It's
No,
so
no.
true. Until you experience that
Yeah.
difference in care. It's a
Yeah.
different world.
Yeah.
And I love what you said about like I couldn't shake it. And I so relate to that because that's exactly where I was at with my first birth, questioning the same thing of
Yeah.
should not I didn't have a twins, but it was my first pregnancy. And I thought, oh well, that you don't do a home birth with your first, like I'll do that with my second. And I
Yeah.
couldn't shake this feeling that like this is what I need. This is the environment I want. And I feel like a lot
Yes.
of women are in that place. And we are live in this world now where we see on social media, we have more access to all these beautiful birth videos of all
Mhm.
different varieties and kinds. And we get to decide like what kind of birth do you want? And
Yeah.
I think there's many women who are in that place where like, I just can't shake this feeling that this is what I really want deep inside. And so
Yeah.
I just want to like pause there and encourage anyone who's experiencing that to really trust those nudges and that
Yes.
intuition, and then it could be Holy Spirit speaking to you.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Do you like you hit the nail on the head? That is like your intuition, whether you're a believer, like that Holy Spirit intuition, whether you're a believer or not, is like intuitively in you. Like you have that. Like God's given you that for a
Yeah.
reason. And He wants you to drown out the noise of the world. He wants you to drown out the opinions of others. Sometimes their opinions are given to you in love, and sometimes they're in fear. But like
Yeah.
that should not like influence, and it does. Unfortunately, it does so bad. And this was truly a pregnancy and a birth that I have never felt closer with the Lord. And it was,
Mm.
I mean, like the pictures and the videos definitely portray that, but I mean, it was a dream. Like like I feel like the few days after that birth, it was like a come down that I had never, like I was so sad that I wasn't researching births and I wasn't preparing for this. I mean, I already had it. And it was just an experience like I've never had before. And my two of my daughters were both able to be there. And
Oh,
it's become like this family thing. Like my boys were at my in-laws, and then my youngest daughter, she was at my other in-laws. But it's become like a family conversation, and I'm excited the generational impact that this hopefully
mm.
will have, because my girls, my almost 13-year-old and my 9-year-old were able to see their brother and sister be born. Like how cool.
Wow.
They cut their cords. They were sitting while I was pushing
Wow.
my son out. They were sitting on my bed, and I was looking up in between contractions, and they're sitting cross-legged, holding each other's hands, praying. I had scripture playing in the background. My midwives were praying over me. Like it was a dream. Like
That's
it was
amazing.
amazing. It was amazing. And I've had great births. I've never
Yeah.
had an experience. Like it was like heaven on
Oh,
earth.
that's amazing.
Yeah. It was
And
awesome.
that's the birth you get to design. You get to
Yeah.
control that environment. You get to invite Holy Spirit in. You get to influence your children. And like what an incredible opportunity that is
Yeah.
as a mother to be able to do that for your children and your family. Oh, that's so gorgeous. I
Yeah.
love it. Okay, tell us how did you prepare for this birth and drown out all that noise?
It was, oh man, I prepared like I was, I don't know, going into war. Really.
You kind of
I
have to with
I
twins,
know.
though.
I
You
knew it.
unfortunately, but you do.
Yeah, I knew that I had to know my stuff. I knew that my body had to be like at its peak. And like, how do you do that when you're pregnant and you have six other kids? But sought out, like, again, and I was still having hyperemesis, so I'm still throwing up a lot. But once it kind of started to ease up, once I was only throwing up like once or twice a day instead of like 6 or 7 times a day, I was able to kind of focus
My
more on
gosh.
hydration and nutrition and protein. And I was still able to like go on walks. I'd walk on the treadmill like pretty much every day. And I would say my prayers and I would do kind of like some light weights just to kind of keep and stretches just to kind of keep my body. I mean, I knew what labor would be like. I had no idea what labor was going to be like with two, but I mean, I had a good idea that it wasn't going to be easy. So I really did prepare. I mean, I would be doing stretches before bed and my husband be laying in bed. He's like, you are way more disciplined. And my husband actually is an NFL player. So he
Wow.
knows, and I was
He
a
knows
division, he
discipline.
knows discipline. I was a Division I athlete too. Like we know discipline. We
Yeah.
know, that you got to prepare your mind, your body, your heart, your
Yeah.
spirit. You got to prepare if you're really going to like do something, like you
It's
gotta,
a physical feat to give
yes,
birth for
yes.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I did not want to leave anything, no stone unturned. Like I was researching and I was reaching out to people that knew twin moms or, listening to your podcast event was so awesome. Listening to Birthing Instincts and following everything about Dr.
Yeah.
Stu, that was so empowering
Oh yeah.
too.
He's
Just, oh man.
amazing twins expert.
Yes.
So
And like,
helpful.
yeah. And just,
Bliss. Oh, I love them.
and they make it so like, yeah, like it's just it's almost like it's not complicated when they say all these things. It's like, yeah, that actually makes sense.
It like rewires your brain when you learn the physiology because you're like,
Yes,
oh, it actually is way more simple than we
right,
make it. Like we just
totally.
overcomplicate it and add in a bunch of fear
Yeah.
and all of these possibilities of things that could go wrong. And it's like, but at the end of the day, it's like I love the quote. It's like, what if twin birth is just birth? One baby comes
Yeah.
and then
And then
another
another
baby
baby
comes.
comes.
Like, is that
Yes.
what it was like for you?
And that's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
One baby came and I like relished in that baby. And then a couple minutes later, contractions started. We waited baby, my son, baby B came 19 minutes later. So my daughter Ruth was able, like her cord was able to, pulse all the way out. And then my oldest daughter cut that cord. My husband took her and did skin to skin with her. And then my daughter also did skin to skin. And then I was able to just labor and just focus in on this baby, or not this baby,
Yeah.
but on baby B. And it's
Wow.
totally what it was.
Yeah. What was your husband like? Was he supportive of a home birth with twins?
Not initially. And I didn't realize how much he was against it until probably around like the 24-ish week mark. I just kind of thought he was just with it in me. Like he wouldn't really talk a ton about it, but I would be like, "Oh, did you know? You have to listen to this. You have to read this statistic. You have to read this article." And he would just kind of shake his head like, "Yeah." Like I think he kind of thought this was something. I mean, I tend to get really excited about things. And I think he kind of thought maybe it was just going to pass like
Oh, yeah.
the
She'll get
excitement,
over
or
this.
yeah,
Yeah.
or I'd find something that was like a little, conflicting and kind of get over it. But I mean, it was almost like a steam engine. Like the more and more I learned, the more convicted I felt. And like, this is actually where I feel like we should be doing it. But also too, at the same time, I and I shared this with him too. Like I want to do whatever the Lord wants us to do. Like however we're going to bring these babies into the world safely, then that is the most important thing. And I don't ever want to do anything that's going to jeopardize that. And that's something that now, after having these babies and a lot more people knowing our story, we've gotten so much more like, thank God those babies are safe. What a miracle. And it's like, I mean, they are a miracle, certainly, but like, thank God they're safe anywhere. Like, it's not that they would have been safer in a hospital or it just, I don't know. So for
So what,
him,
yeah, what ultimately changed his mind?
yes, for him though, I mean, he just brought it to prayer every single day. And again, I
Mm,
think at that 24-week mark, I mean, he was going to adoration, and I think the Lord just kind of calmed his heart a lot.
mm,
And I don't know if there was anything specific that was like, aha. I just think it was like just a surrender, like a daily, like, is this something? And not really getting an answer. Okay, I'm going to ask again. Is this something? Okay, not really getting an answer. And then again, at that 24-ish week mark, he brought it again. Lord, is this the answer? And the Lord, I think finally was like, yes, like this is, and I think he probably had way more. I mean, I had a ton of peace about it, but I think if he had even more conviction about it than I did. And I had a ton of conviction. So it was awesome for us to partner in that because he was like, I'm in it with you, Jill. Yes, like whatever you need. And he just with my other babies, he kind of was just like, Jill, you can take care of this. Like you're a strong girl. Like you got this. Like and I'm like, no, I actually do need you. I want you. I want you to be a part of this. I love you. I want you to be, I don't want it to just be me birthing the baby and you just like smiling and being proud of me. Like I want it to be us that help bring these babies into the world.
Oh, what a beautiful opportunity for him to step into that
It
and
was.
support you and
Yeah.
and be all in. Like we
Yeah.
want their all in. We want their conviction. And I love that you felt so convicted yourself in that and you stood strong even though he wasn't sure until he
Yeah.
came around. And they do. Like I think they do hear from God when they're seeking him and trusting, and we have confidence to stand in
Yeah.
our true conviction. Like our men will come around, and when they're connected and trusting, that's a beautiful thing.
He was even the one that when I went into labor, I was so unsure. I'm like, I don't think this is labor. He was the one that when I had called my midwife, kind of telling her like, I don't really know what this is. Like, it just seems, he was the one like in the background. He was like, Shara, I just want to let you know every time she has this, like she has the baby between 4 and 5 hours later. So if you can get here like now, that would be good. And I no joke, I had been talking to her at 6:20. I had my daughter at 10:20. It was 4 hours later. So he was paying
Well,
attention
he's
to
been through this
his
six
intuition.
times.
I would, but no, he was the one that like he totally was intuitive with it all, which was so awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So tell us about the birth itself. Like what was different? How did it go? It sounds like it was super straightforward.
Yeah.
Were you
Well,
nervous?
straightforward. No, I was not nervous. So I was 37 weeks on Thursday. On Friday, I had gone up to Lafayette to see my midwife. She's like, do you want to just see like where babies are at, like head down? Because I knew she was head down, but I kind of wanted to see what his position was. I was so nervous the entire pregnancy of having breech babies. Even though I know that that's a variation of normal, I just was so concerned. Like, I really just need her to be head down. I know I could do a breech baby if he's breech, but I really need her to be head down. And I was pretty positive that she was, but I just kind of wanted to see where his was just to kind of help my mind wrap around you know, what I need to prepare for. So she was head down, he was breech. So I was like, all right, whatever. She's like, we'll manage whatever we get. So that was Friday. And then the next
That's
day,
amazing that your provider was confident in
yes,
delivering breech, because that
yes,
to me, and this is what I tell women and what I put in my course. I have the whole twins module in there. I'm like, you have to
yeah,
find a provider if you have twins that is confident and experienced delivering breech babies, because
yeah,
the likelihood one of them will be breech is very high. It's like
yeah,
over 50%.
yep,
And
yep,
so that's amazing. And you really had to seek her out, right? Like this to
yes,
find, she was a certified nurse midwife,
yeah, yeah.
which you wanted the
But it
CNM.
wasn't even that hard to find her. That's why I felt like it was another just God thing because it
Yeah.
was really, I mean, my doula has actually been working with her. So like that was the connection that
Oh,
she had
perfect.
because where I live, we live in Indianapolis, there are no CNMs around here. Like the closest one is Cher, an hour away. And then with the twin birth, Cher also wanted another CNM. So we got another CNM from Terre Haute, which was like an hour and 20 minutes away. So like those were the closest ones in our area. I think there might be two other ones, maybe in Evansville, like area or like Southern Indiana, but like that was as close. And those were like the only two. So just even having them here, two certified nurse midwives was like a total God thing. So that was Friday. And we had prepared like our birth team. So it was like, it was going to be Shara and then Barb, the two CNMs, my two doulas, which one of my doulas is in midwifery school. And then Shara had a birth assistant and then Joe. So it was going to be six. And then the MD that oversees Shara, my midwife, she asked if she could come to the birth too. So I was like, sure. Like I knew it was something that probably not a lot of people had seen or might not see. So I was like,
Yeah.
please, like if you're going to come and like lend a helping hand, or even if you just want to see, like, please come. So she ended up coming, but she missed the birth, but she was still able
Oh,
to do the checks on the babies, which was awesome to have her. We had like this awesome birth team. So I felt so confident in who we were going to have here. So I saw her on Friday, then Saturday, the next day, and Friday too, I was like, I'm going to keep these babies in for another couple weeks. I know it. Like, I think like 38, 39, that's probably where I'm at. And my daughter had measured me around like, around and I was like 123 centimeters around. And then I was measuring 52 weeks. So I
Oh
was
my
large.
gosh, that's big.
I was large. And
Oh my goodness.
yes, I was at 3 weeks early too. So
Yeah.
I cannot even imagine what I would have had to push out. if we were
Wow. You're
term.
measuring 52 weeks at 37 weeks.
And
Gosh.
so Friday, I was like, I feel great. But Saturday rolled around and I'm like, I do not feel great. Like, I just feel like I just have one big cramp and I'm like, this isn't a contraction. What is going on? But I'm like, it's not loosening up. I don't know what's going on. So I like sat on the couch, kind of started counting contractions, called my doula, called my midwife. I'm like, I'm just going to go upstairs and lay down. So Joe had already called them to come down. So they got here around probably like 8:45-ish. And I probably came up to my room around like 8 to kind of just rest. And the contractions were so variable. Like they were lasting for around a minute, but they were like 20 minutes apart, 9 minutes apart, 3 minutes apart, 12 minutes apart. It was so random. I couldn't, and I was getting really frustrated because all these people were coming from a good distance away. I didn't want to waste their time. So Joe's like, do you want to just have them in here and you can just chat with them? So we let them into our house at like 9. And Shara's like, do you want me to just check you? Just see. And I was kind of anti-checking because I'm like, I'm always 2 centimeters, 80% of face. Like, until I literally push the baby out. That's always what I am. So I'm like, sure, just check me. You're going to say 2 centimeters. And she checked me at 9:20 and I was at 5.5 centimeters. So I'm like, oh, like I'm in labor. Like this is a good thing. Didn't really know. I mean, I knew like something was going on, but I didn't know this was active labor. So then they kind of went out into the hallway and, we're kind of getting ready. And my doula stayed in my room with me. And she's like, okay, let's do some side lying stuff. And so we're doing it. We're just shooting the breeze and just chatting. And then at like 9:40, I like rolled over to the other side of my bed to do like the second side of the sideline position and my water popped. And I'm like, oh, but there's not a lot of fluid. So, and then all of a sudden I'm like, I think I could probably hold it in. Like maybe that was just pee. And then I like did another movement and it was just like,
You were still denying you were in labor.
I was still like, I'm still like in denial. Like, I don't know. So then, I mean, probably contractions really, I mean, they maybe started to pick up maybe 5 to 10 minutes after that. And then I'm kind of like moving around my room and I really wanted this area and I didn't really realize it at the time, but it's like where we have like our crucifix and our cross, but I didn't realize that that's why I wanted to be there. But I was like, I feel like this is the place where I need to be birthing. So at like 10:19, I was like, and I like kind of went over to the stool and I like pushed her out and it was so easy. It was so easy. I was so calm and peaceful. And I mean, yeah, it hurt. Like any birth is really going to hurt, but like, I mean, it was not like pain, if that makes sense. Like it wasn't like in the hospital when I was having my other ones, it was like, I remember just like screaming in fear, even though they were really quick. I remember screaming the babies out in fear.
Wow.
And it was not like that at all. Like I'm sure I was moaning and I mean, I for sure was. I have the video to prove it, but it was such a more peaceful, I don't know, peaceful pushes.
Wow.
And so she came out beautifully, like head first. I mean, it was work for sure.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
it was so awesome. And the girls got up here literally like 2 minutes before I had her. So they were able to see her being born. And then, I'm holding her and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh gosh, I got to do another one. So that I didn't want that to I just really was just happy I had her. And I really didn't want to let what was going to come kind of impact that time that I had with her. So just like holding her and
you delivered her on a birth stool?
No, like I was on my knees, but do you know like those stools that like kids use in the bathroom that they stand up on? For some reason was like, this would be and this was like weeks before I had them. This would be an amazing, I could get some leverage, like holding onto that. So I was like kind of more upright, but not like upright, like on a bed or like a stool, but I just was able to like kind of push down on something, but also be more upright. It was
okay.
I would totally recommend it. If anyone is looking into different birthing positions, I would totally recommend something like that because I had my old OB with my other six was super old school. Like I had to deliver on my back.
Mm.
And
And you were with them with this pregnancy,
no, so
no? But you
he actually passed
switched.
away.
Oh,
Yeah, he
okay.
passed away last summer.
Wow.
And I had kind of in the back of my head was like, okay, if I were to have another baby, I would definitely go the midwife route.
Yeah.
And then, when I found out I was doing twins, I couldn't do the midwife route. I had to go OB. So I'm so happy that like I intuitively knew that the midwife route was like where I should be. And
Yeah.
I'm sad I never didn't get that with the others, but it was experience.
But
So
you got to experience it, yeah, at the end.
yeah, yeah. So I pushed her out and then, we waited for her cord to stop pulsing and my oldest daughter got to cut her cord
Mm.
and then it was kind of but probably about 5 minutes after I had had Ruth, contractions kind of did start picking up again. But they were definitely contractions, but they were not like these I can't do them contraction or not that I was even like that with Ruth, but they were contractions, but I was in such a different euphoric state. Probably the oxytocin was just flowing I was able to cope with them way better
Yeah.
than again, the hospital births for sure.
That makes sense because
Yeah.
you're having a birth high, but you're still in
Yes,
labor. Like you're
yes,
having the
yes,
baby, the skin to skin, and new contractions.
yes. And I just kind of knew like, okay, just on to the next. Like we can do this. Like we're in it. We're going to do it. Let's just keep on doing it. So they did bring like a mini ultrasound Doppler just to kind of, she's like, do you want to just see what the position is of the baby? So I said, sure. So we found out, and he was breech, but we didn't realize what type of breech. But she's like, "Yep, that is not his head. That is definitely not his head." So,
Did you feel things moving or like baby shifting
no,
after, like in
I
between?
didn't. No, no. So he really must have, because he was like, I don't know if I can like she was very much head down, and then her butt was up here, and then he had like so I always felt like I always felt his legs like down here, like
Yeah.
always kicks. So he must have really just like just slid because
Slid
then
right down.
because then
They
he
have
ended
all
up
that
being.
extra room, and you never know what position they're going to
I
get in
know.
once
I just kept on
baby
like
A is
praying
born.
though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just kept on praying.
So did
And
that scare you knowing, oh, he's butt down or what, how did that?
no, nope. I just was like, nope, we're just gonna do it. I felt such confidence, such peace. I knew Shara felt confidence and peace. And I just knew,
That's so important.
yeah, I just knew we
Because,
were supposed to
like,
be
in a
here.
hospital, that's the moment that everybody freaks out,
Oh, I
right?
know.
Like, oh
Yeah.
no, baby A is born. Even if they're not breech, there's that rush. There's such a
Yeah.
rush and stress and
Yeah.
an emergency feeling
Yeah.
in between baby A and baby B being born.
Yeah.
Because to them, that's like the most dangerous time.
Right.
So they
Right.
got to rush it up. And then your midwife goes, oh, it's baby B is breech.
Yeah.
And nobody panics. Like,
No.
that is everything.
Just let my body just do it. It was
Yeah.
so, oh my gosh. It was, yeah. And I think thinking back through it all, I realized like what a gift every single moment of that
Hmm.
19 minutes was, because it would have been so different if we were in the
Yeah.
hospital. So I'm getting ready and I'm pushing him out, and his feet come out first. So she was like, okay, he has feet first. And she was definitely kind of helping me. So first of all, when he came out, and I can even send you some videos. I don't know if you can post on what you
Oh
can,
yeah, send them. Send me all the videos.
yes, I'll for sure. Um, and this is something that I had prayed about, Karen, like specifically. I prayed about their amniotic fluid. I prayed about their position, but I had prayed for their umbilical cords, and one that, they weren't like wrapped around, that they were long enough, that that they were like the perfect, whatever they needed to be, that they were just right.
Wow.
And his umbilical cord, you'll see in this video, is like, I mean, it was like 3 times the size of hers. And
Wow.
I realized after the fact, that was so ordained, because it was this thick, pulsing, oxygenated cord that it was able to give me some time to be able to push him out. And it was probably only like 2 minutes of pushing, but just the way that he came, it wasn't like his cord was compressed, like he was, you know, starved for oxygen. They did have to give him like two
Like rescue brats.
yeah, two rescue breaths, but
Yeah.
like his heart was still beating. He still had tone the whole
Yeah.
time. And then, after those two or three, he
Perks
screamed
in.
and like I got him right on me, and it was seamless. There was no panic.
The
Um,
whole time. Like, so the
the
feet
whole
are
time.
coming
So
out.
the
Did it
feet
take a
came.
while to push him out, or was
Yes,
it
it
it's like
did.
easy?
No, it did. And I was I was like pissed about it in the moment. I'm like, what is going on? Like that should just be and I
Like, she
think
already cleared the way. Come on.
yes, like what are you doing? And there in the video, I just was like, and one of the pushes, I'm like, oh, get out, like just get out of me.
You're like, I'm done.
Yes.
Come on.
So I think what happened was I think both of his arms were above.
Yeah.
So I'm pushing. So on one of the pushes, she kind of helped guide one of his arms out. So then at that point, it was just an arm and his head.
Hmm.
But then he was able to kind of turn and she worked with him. You could tell, like in the video, like he
She
had
did
such
some
good tone.
maneuvers.
Yes, like
Yeah.
she was so awesome. Like she,
Yeah. And because helping, when those babies come out breech, everything's backwards. So they
yes,
they rotate opposite.
yes,
All
yes,
the cardinal movements are different. And
yes,
to assist that, like, you need
yes.
special training
Yes. And she
to
she knew
know
exactly
how to
what to
do
do.
that.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep, yep. And like head and then like so yeah, it was awesome. It like I feel like I rewatch the births almost every single day because I'm like, this is how did I get to do this? This is so cool. Like I said, like no one does twin home births. Everyone's so afraid, even just like twins, like everyone's so afraid of it. And just
Yeah.
to be able to defy the odds, even though all I did was just listen to my body. All I did was
Mm.
just listen to the spirit. And all I did was just intuitively follow like the cues of like of what to do. It wasn't that hard to do that. I mean, it was hard to drown out the outside voices. That
Yeah.
was the hardest part.
Yeah.
And like the opinions of, I mean, people are gonna have the opinions, but just like you just want to correct all of like the misinformation and you can't.
Yeah. You
I
have
mean,
to
you
just trust your
can.
intuition and
Yeah.
know,
Like
like,
I'm not on this like, I'm not on this mission to change everyone's minds that you should do home birth. Like I'm not saying that, but I think that everyone really needs to trust their intuition more. Every mom needs to, because it's a heart tug. It's something. And even if it's not like, even if this home birth wasn't something I should have done, like the fact that I educated myself so much, like I'm just so grateful for that, to be able to have like been empowered and yeah, just like had the choice.
oh man, it's so beautiful. So, like, when baby B comes out, and I think it's amazing too, like that he had a thicker cord, because
Yes.
there's always a slightly higher risk of like cord compression with breech,
Uh-huh.
with the head coming out last.
Yeah.
But it's like incredible to know that like God takes care of that too,
He
and
provided in the best way.
in
Like that
all
was,
these ways.
yes. Seriously, I cannot wait to show you this. I mean, it was like this thing was like three times, it was almost three times the size of hers. Like, cause you can see hers coming out. And I mean, it was like a normal looking cord. So my other daughter who had to snap, like who cut his cord, was like really trying to like dig in and cut it. I was like, don't cut me. Just like, oh yeah,
It's
but it's
amazing.
provided.
So
Yeah.
like baby comes out, and you did them like on the hands and knees. You weren't in the water, so
No.
and you're
Yeah.
able to just like hold the babies.
Hold
What was it
on.
like after they were born?
Oh my gosh. I just was like, I did it. Like I did it. Again,
Yeah.
so much. It was just like months and months and tears of struggling in this pregnancy. And there were other things too. Like they had found like a structural abnormality with Samuel's heart. And so I had to surrender that. And, we went and took him for an echocardiogram a week after he was born, and it was completely healed, which is like,
Mm,
it's like a legit
wow.
miracle. Like structurally, it should not
Wow.
have been structurally. I mean, I had seen it on the ultrasound. I had seen what the
What the issue
abnormality
was.
was.
Yeah.
Yes, I saw it multiple times. And then to go in, after he's born, after I've like already surrendered that and like, Lord, like we know that you are going to provide in whatever way. And he is like a perfect baby heart. Like there's like nothing wrong with it after months and months of prayer. So
Mm,
I was just so happy to like have them. And it was just surreal to have had to have prepared for that. And then all of a sudden it's like done. But I'm so happy they're here. Like it was like euphoric. It really was.
yeah.
And
When you guys see the pictures, you'll know exactly what she means. 'Cause you're like
Yes,
in heaven, like
I
the
know.
most pure joy ever. It's
Yeah.
just so beautiful.
Did I send the one with like my placenta like in the bowl?
Let me
Where
see.
my like husband is like he like walks over because he had been like off to the
Yeah.
side like
Yeah.
holding and it's like it's almost like good job babe like you did it and I'm just like look I have these
Yeah.
babies like
The giant placenta
this
bowl is in between
giant
your
first
legs and
placenta
you're
so
holding
it
them
had
like I did it.
yeah so they were die twins but they both the placentas were anterior so like I birthed like this one big placenta out because it it kind of like it didn't fuse together, but I guess it kind of did. It was separated by a membrane. So I'm just like pushing out this like massive placenta. It was like
Massive
three,
placenta. It
three
looks huge.
pounds. It was so easy to push that thing out. Not having someone pull on your placenta is kind of awesome.
Yeah.
Like it just comes
It
out
is
of you.
good.
Like
It's the way it's
shocker.
supposed to be. You're not supposed
Yes.
to have anyone pull it out.
Yes. Like
Oh my, it's like the things you think are normal in hospital birth when you only know hospital birth, and then you realize, oh, that's actually not normal. That shouldn't
right.
be. Nobody should
Right.
be yanking placentas out of women's
Right.
bodies.
Yeah. I didn't even have to push. I didn't even have to, like, it literally just slipped out of me.
Yep.
Whereas I remember the other ones, I'm like, oh, like bearing down, pushing, because they're like, okay. And they're like pulling this. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. It like, it irks me. Like, that's gross.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
know in your body, like this feels wrong. This is
Yes.
not good. This is not
Yes.
okay. But we're just conditioned
You
to
just
think
kind of
we
let it
have
happen.
to, yeah, that's what's supposed to happen. No,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
How big were your babies?
So Ruth, our baby A, was 7 pounds, 2 ounces. And
Wow.
then Samuel, so he did poop like right as soon as he was born, but when we weighed him, he was 7.15.
Oh,
So
wow. So he
I
was
had,
probably an 8 pounder.
yes, but I had 15 pounds of baby
Oh
inside of
my
me,
gosh.
plus a
Yes.
3 pound placenta. It was a
So you
lot.
dropped like 20, 30
I
pounds
weighed
right
myself the
away.
next day. It was 25 pounds, like easy,
Amazing.
25 pounds easy. I cannot, I mean, I was so uncomfortable and
I
I can only
bet.
say
Your
that I'm
other
not.
babies were big. You said you had like 9.5 pound babies
Yeah,
for all your
yeah.
others.
9.5 pounders. Yeah. So
So you grow good sized babies.
yeah, baby B, Sam was when they did the ultrasounds, was always on like the 98th percentile for weight. So I knew he was going to be on the larger side. And she was like, 70 or 80. So I knew they were going to be good sized babies, but I cannot even imagine if I carry those babies to term, how large. And I don't think in my mind, I let myself like acknowledge how uncomfortable I was. Cause like I think when you go there, then you can't dig yourself out of that pit.
Yeah.
When you're like, I'm so miserable.
Right. You just have to, yeah,
You
like
just got to
not
be like,
dwell on it.
I'm not comfortable, but I'm making it through. I'm not comfortable, but I'm
Yeah.
making it through.
There's a purpose for this.
Yes, yes.
So, what would you say to any moms, especially twin moms who
Mm.
are preparing for birth?
Well, I would encourage them to like seek out other twin moms, even if they've had hospital births, even if they've had cesareans. I just think that like to just be able to gather as much information as you can so that yes, like intuitively you can make a decision, but also to like you have like resources to help you. And that was something I like was not shy about. Like anyone that's done the twin thing, like just send them my way. Like I want to talk to them. I had multiple conversations with like the most random people and just asking questions. So like, how did you know this? And even postpartum, like I would talk to a lot of these moms, like, how did you nurse? Did you nurse? Did you bottle? Like I just wanted like the full scope of everything, what
Yeah.
I was getting myself into. And like, I think just don't, I don't know, don't sell yourself short. Like just because you're having twins or multiples doesn't mean you are high risk. Like,
Mm.
and I think too, like these babies were naturally conceived. So that did, I think, set us up for a more successful natural birth experience. But I even think that you have to really tap into your body and to not be afraid to do that and to make sure that you are like nutritionally sound and hydrating and getting all of those things and in your mind, body, spirit, like you're preparing for like a like war. You're preparing for like a serious battle. And then also too, I think not just giving OBs like the benefit of the doubt. Like, yes, I'm sure most of them have your best interest in mind, but their best interests aren't necessarily like your what your best interests are. Their best interests are your best interests always. So anytime that they say something or suggest something, and it like pay attention to those, I don't know, like that ick feeling. Like if they say something and you're like,
Mm,
oh, like I don't know if I want to do that. Pay attention to that because that's not just like your blinders aren't going off for just any reason.
yeah.
And maybe
So good.
yeah, maybe they're warning you about something that is legitimate, but like most of the time it's not as like dire. And I remember when I had switched one of the OB who
Because
had
you
wanted to
switched your
induce.
backup OB
I
at like
switched back up
34
OB. Yes, switched
weeks.
hospitals. Yes, yes. And they
Yeah. For
again were
this
saying
very
this.
reason, right?
Yes, yeah, I was like 34 weeks. And again, they were kind of saying the same thing. It was a better experience for sure, but they were still saying the same things of, yep, we're going to induce you at 38 weeks and we're going to make sure that you got that epidural just in case we got to take you back for a C-section. And all of those things were like, that's icky. Like that's ew, ew, ew. And maybe if we were to do a hospital, maybe I would have just had to like accept some of those things. But thankfully, I was able to do a lot of research and find these home birth midwives that were like, no, like what do you want? Like how do you
Yeah.
see this birth going? And then we can share with you our expertise
Mm,
and we can have a discussion about, is
yes.
this possible?
That's a whole different story when the provider is honoring the mother's intuition and
Yeah.
instincts and asking the mother, what do you want for your birth? Instead
Yeah.
of being told, here's what
Hmm.
we're going to do to you in
Yeah.
labor.
Yeah.
And you just have to accept it. And they're used to moms just accepting it. Like,
Yes.
here's the protocol. We induce, we hook you up to epidural, we da 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 da,
Uh-huh.
da, we clamp
Yep.
the cord, and all these things. It's like they're used to women just falling in line. And I think there's now a lot of women rising up saying, hey,
Yeah.
hey, I don't want that.
Right. Right.
And they almost don't know how to handle autonomous women saying, no,
Yeah.
this is what I want in my birth.
Yeah.
And you then get to make the choice, just like you did, Jill, to like switch if you don't
Yes.
feel like they're actually listening.
Yeah. And I think that they heard me. I think that they, especially in the early weeks with the one OB, she like shook her head, like, yep, yep, that seems right. And then, as the weeks kind of are ticking by and like,
Yeah.
oh, we're gonna suggest you do that. Oh, we recommend this. Oh, we like, I don't feel comfortable with this. Like, so one of the OBs, I said, why do I need to get induced at 38 weeks again? Like, why? Like, I just want to know, like, why when I've had all of mine have been full term big babies, like, is it like, what's the hang up? And she said, well, but after 39 weeks, your placentas just get old. Your placenta just gets old. And I go, but there's two placentas in there. So like, isn't it kind of like they're like one baby, but two of them in there? And she's like, and she didn't answer. She's totally like, and she's like, well, and again, I think this OB is a really good OB. I did really like her. But when I like kind of pushed back on it, I'm like, but like I've been able to do this before. Like why? And she's like, well, I would actually be okay with you delivering at like 38 and 6. But after that 39 weeks, too many risks. I don't feel comfortable. And I'm like, so like 24 hours is really going to make my placentas become decrepit and like
Right.
not life
Your
sustaining for my baby.
overnight, your placenta grows old.
Yes. I
Like
don't understand
the
how it makes sense.
rationale of their argument starts to break down.
Yes. Yes. Like help it make sense to me because yes.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, I appreciate that she was really trying to work with me. And I really do think she was. But
Yeah. But
there
they
are,
have a certain training and comfort
yes,
level and
yes,
their true colors show. Like even though they're
yeah,
wonderful people, they have a comfort level and their box is very defined
yeah,
based on their training and their personal experience. And so
yes.
when
And
you
probably the
realize,
hospital protocols too.
yes,
I'm
a
sure
hospital
like,
protocol,
yeah,
insurance guidelines, like there's so
yes,
many things they have to abide by.
yes,
And it's not their fault. That's just the way they are trained and
yeah.
conditioned to view birth. And
Hmm.
you have to find someone that really aligns with your views and values. And so I love that
Yeah.
you found a different backup OB even at that point that didn't give you that ick feeling
Right. I
and
know.
then
I
still
know.
had your midwife. So
Yeah.
it's so important. So I love all of those encouragements to moms like and I
Yeah.
think that goes toward any mom whether twins or not to really
Yeah.
trust your intuition and get a provider that really believes in you.
Yeah,
It's
don't be afraid to search around.
yeah.
Don't be afraid to switch. I literally switched with twins at 34 weeks. Like that is not normal. Like
No.
most OBs don't really do that, but I had like a couple nurse friends that kind of put in some good words and I was able to like talk to the intake gal and I was like, listen, like I've done this before. I know my stuff. I don't feel comfortable where I'm at. Can I please just meet with her just so I can,
Yeah.
yeah. And they're like, yep, she'll take you. So,
Everything's
but then I was like,
negotiable,
well,
ladies. Everything is
yes,
negotiable. Like this
yes,
should
yeah,
be your
seriously, just stand your
pregnancy, your
ground. Yeah.
birth.
Don't,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Oh, I love that so much. Thank you for sharing
Of
your
course.
beautiful story. And I can't wait to get this up on the gram and on the podcast channels. We'll make sure we link everything. Where can mamas find you if they want to reach out to you
Yeah. So
directly?
I'm on Instagram at Jill Wrights. That's Jill, Jill, and then Reitz. And mamas, don't feel like embarrassed or anything. Like, please reach out. Like I love birth. I don't really have like any huge platforms, but I am a huge birth advocate. And even if you just like want someone to talk to or pray with you, like I would love to be a resource or I don't know, just help in any way. Cause my story, I fully believe it is not just my story. It's my family's story. And I know that it's meant to be a witness and that I can hopefully use it to share and kind of limit or lower some of the fear that
Yeah.
goes on with home birth and with twins and with breech babies.
Yeah, you've got them
Yeah,
all.
just check all the boxes.
Yeah. So much for
Of
just making
course.
yourself available and for your part in dismantling the fear around birth, home birth, twins birth, breech birth, like every time we share these stories. And I told you at the beginning of this podcast, I'm like, I'm obsessed with twin birth because it's like we have so many limits and culturally it's in our society on like how twins and breech are supposed to be birthed. And yet I just see so many stories like yours being shared now that just defy all
Yeah.
of these statistics and all the odds. And they just shows you how natural and normal it really is.
Yeah.
Not that there aren't some higher risks and things that we have to really be prepared for and have a good team around us. But I just see like how glorious twin birth can be and how it doesn't have to be fearful. So I
Yeah.
just want to thank you personally for
Of
helping to change the narrative around twin birth and twin home birth. And thank you
Mm,
for sharing your story today.
of course. Thank you for having me on.
Yay. We'll see you guys next week. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Pain Free Birth Podcast. If you were encouraged, it would mean so much if you left us a 5-star review and shared this with your community. I'd love to connect with you on Instagram at Pain Free Birth. And to learn more about the Pain Free Birth e-course, free resources, private coaching, and upcoming events, find out more at painfreebirth.com. See you next week.